Hey crazy friends, it's Jay with Find You Crazy. We are a family of 9 who live full-time in our RV with 5 of our kids as we go around the country to see every national park. But today is another maintenance video. I'm going to be talking about how to tell when your propane tanks are full or empty. So that's right. Today we're going to talk about how to see how much propane you have left in your tank. It's one of those things that you don't really think about. It seems pretty simple until you're out RVing and you realize it's not that simple. And so in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the solution that I have found, which is the Mopeka LP tank sensor, which I absolutely love. And so this video, I'll break it up into pieces. We'll talk about why other gauges don't work, what I like about the Mopeka, and then finally how to actually install and operate it. And so I'll break all this up in the description box. So if you want to jump directly to one of those places, you can do that down there. So first, the horror story. Why is this important? Why is this super important to me? The very, very first shakedown trip that we took with our camper, we bought our camper. We knew we were getting ready to go full time. We bought it about 6 months before, 8 months before we launched. We spent the first 3 months just completely renovating it, and then we were finally ready to go out and take our first shakedown trip. And we bought it in the summer, so we had used like no propane. It had been plugged up because we got a powered storage place so that we could do all the work, so I never had to worry about the fridge. So I had not even thought about propane. So we're getting ready to head out for our first trip, and I go out and kind of pick up the tanks, and I'm like, man, these things are really heavy. And so I thought we had plenty of propane. We got up into the mountains of North Georgia, and the temperatures dropped that first night, and we about froze to death because we had no propane. Freezing in the middle of the night, I go out, I'm like, it's okay, babe, I'll just switch to the other tank. Switch to the other tank, nothing. Like, we thought something was wrong with our furnace. Nope, we were just out of all of our propane. So at that point, I was like, okay, we've got to figure out a way for me to be able to tell how much propane we have, especially with our big family. We have a propane tankless hot water heater, so we use a lot of propane there even during the summer, and nobody wants a cold shower. But then especially when you get in the winter months like we are now, and you're using propane for all of your hot water, all of your cooking, and heating your rig, it can drop off pretty fast, even when you have 30-pound tanks like we do. And so you want a way to be able to monitor that. So there are a couple of options. The first one is gauges like these. These are pressure gauges. This one actually came built into, this is the extension hose for my grill so that I can hook up our small 20-pound tank to my grill, and it came with that pressure gauge on the end of it. And you can get those as little standalone things that hook on between your valve and your hose in your rig. Problem with those. So those obviously measure pressure, and that's what tells you if you're in the green, if you're in the yellow, or if you're in the red. Well, the problem with that is the pressure on your propane tank really doesn't change until you're almost empty. So quick discussion about how propane works. So propane is a great gas for using because of its really, really, really low boiling point. So it boils at something like 46 degrees below zero or something crazy like that. So that means that it turns from a liquid into a gas at that low temperature, unless it's under pressure. And so that's why these tanks are so solid, because they have to maintain a very high pressure inside of the tank. And so when they fill up your tank, all that pressure turns that propane into a liquid form, and so you're really filling your tank with liquid from the bottom up. And then as you let gas off of the top, that propane level, the liquid level, drops. But what it does is, as it drops, it constantly keeps the upper portion at the same pressure, because once it drops in level, that drops in pressure, it allows more of the liquid to turn to gas and equalizes the pressure back at the top again. So what that means is, no matter what level your propane is, if your liquid's here, if your liquid's here, if your liquid's here, this top portion is always at the same pressure. And so the pressure gauges really don't work until you're right at the very end, like 90-95% done, and all of a sudden you're out. Or using a grill, you got a separate tank sitting there. That's not as big a deal, right? When you're out, you just switch over to the other tank. But when you're talking about your rig and your heat and cooking and hot water, that's not okay. And then you also don't want to have to walk out and check it all the time. And so that's why these are not such a great option. They also have these little magnetic stickers that you can put on the side of your tank, and they actually measure the temperature. So there's a temperature difference as that propane turns from liquid to gas. It lowers the pressure. It lowers the temperature, and so there's a distinct temperature difference between where the gas is and where the liquid is. Problem with that is you have to have been running your tank for that evaporation to happen and that temperature difference to happen. And so if it's just been sitting for a while, it's not super accurate. You can actually do this if you're in a pinch. You've been running your tank for a little bit. You can actually do it by pouring a cup of hot water over the side and then running your hand down where you poured it, and you'll feel that temperature difference. But again, who wants to do that all the time when you're in an RV? So the solution is to go sonic. And for me, that was this great little product called the Mopeka RV tank. Well, it's actually not RV, it's for any tank. So the Mopeka gas tank indicator, LP gas tank indicator is what it's called. And it is a wonderful little device. Let's check it out. So this is what you want. The Mopeka, that's Mopeka. I have no idea what that stands for, but the Mopeka sensor. This is an amazing little gadget. This thing basically attaches to the bottom of your tank. So those two little silver circles are magnets. And then in the middle, that plastic black circle is a sonic sensor. So this uses like super secret high-tech technology. It's space age, I'm sure, to detect exactly how much propane is left inside of your tank. And it is amazing. Installation is unbelievably simple, and then reading it is a breeze as well. So you have two different options. You can buy just the sensors, which is what I did, and then there's a free mobile app, which we'll look at in just a second, that you can just pull up and it'll tell you exactly how much. You have 35% left in this tank. You have 14 inches left in this tank. It adjusts to any size tank, so it doesn't matter if you got 20, 30, 40 pound tanks. They even make a different sensor for like those massive tanks that you would have on your house. And you can see it all right there in your app. You can set it up to give you warnings. It's Bluetooth from this device to your phone. And so unbelievably great. Basically, I got into where I just get up every morning and I check my propane levels, and at night before I go to bed, I check them, and then I turn the app off. You can leave the app running all the time. It gets readings every couple of seconds, actually, and you can set it up to give you warnings. I just didn't want the battery drain on my phone for the Bluetooth running all the time like that. So I just close out the app when I'm done looking, and then pull it back up that evening and look at it. They also have, if you're not into using your phone or you're just not a big technology guy, they actually have a different kit that comes with a little box that you mount inside of your camper, and it has two little buttons on it, and each button's got 5 lights, 3 green, a yellow, and a red. And so you just press it so you don't get as detailed of information, but it's right there, and when it gets down low, the little red light starts flashing. Those are great. I did hear that early in their production, those were only calibrated to 20-pound tanks, but now they have them where you can calibrate them to the 20, 30, or 40, and so you're good to go. So 2 little screws, you screw that right inside to wherever's convenient inside your camper, and then you're good to go. You don't have to get out in the cold. You can look and see exactly where you're at on propane levels, and you never have to worry about being caught out in the cold again. All right, so installation of this thing really could not be simpler. The kit comes with the sensors. It also comes with some little aluminum feet that you can put around the rim of your tank if you need to. I did not need to. When the sensor, you can see how thin this thing is. So when it goes on the bottom here, if you don't have the clearance from your tank, that's what those little feet are for. You can put them around. They also make a ring, I think. But mine came with a little aluminum feet that you can hammer on, which is great. It also comes with a little tube of jelly that you put on. You want that plastic monitor piece to be making direct contact, so you don't want debris or especially water to get in there, because that'll completely mess up your readings. And so it comes with basically dielectric gel for you to put on there, and there's a tiny little tube that comes in there. If when you have to take it off to replace the batteries, you need some more, you can buy one of these little packets of dielectric gel at your local auto parts place. They're usually right up by the counter. They're like $2, and it'll last you for a long time. So you can see I've already put a little squirt on there, and then basically what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to stick this so that sensor is at the lowest point of the curve of the bottom of the tank, and that's it. You are installed with the sensor. Now all you're going to do is pull up the app. If you have the kit with the inside little monitor box, you're good to go. If you're going to use the app, which is what I prefer, and I would suggest because it gives you a lot more detailed information, then you need to set up the app. And to do that, we'll pull up the app in just a second, but you're going to press this little green box here on the outside that says sync. You're going to press that once you have the app up, and you're ready to go. So let's take a look at that app. All right, so once you've downloaded the app, turned it on, and then press that green sync button that we talked about on your monitor, it's going to immediately look for, make sure your Bluetooth is on, but it's going to immediately look for that sensor, and it's going to pair it up to your app. Then you're ready to go in and you can start looking at all of the readings that you have here inside of the app on that tank. Now, obviously, the big thing in the middle you can tell is how much propane you have left in the tank. But then at the top, there's three really important indicators. The first one is a battery indicator for how much battery life is left inside of your sensor. The second one is with the little Wi-Fi symbol, tells you how good your connection is from your phone to the sensor, making sure that there's not some kind of interference or something that's messing with it. And then that third one, the 3-star quality, that tells you how good the connection is from the sensor to the tank. So if you didn't put enough dielectric gel on there, or you didn't have any, or it's not centered right, or maybe while you've been driving down the road it's popped off, that's going to tell you that you don't have any quality, or you've got really low quality. If that's the case, you need to go out and reposition it, maybe add a little more dielectric gel to get that connection right. Then once you want to set everything up, the settings button up in the top, that little gear box, pulls down, and you can do several things with it. You can name your tank. I just name mine left and right because that's how mine are positioned in my rig, so I can know which one is which. If you want to draw on the outside of your tank or whatever you want to do, but you can change the name there. And then you can set up how you want to see things. And so obviously you can set the size of your tank. That's super important because otherwise you're going to get a false indication of how full you are. Then you can set up how you want to see your reading, if you want it in centimeters, percentage, which is what I like, inches, how many inches of liquid you have left, or how many centimeters. Like I said, I really like the percentage. That's the easiest one for me. And then you can actually set up your notifications. When do you want to be given a warning? If you leave the app on all the time, if it gets below a certain percentage, and you can set that. I mean, I keep mine pretty low when I'm at campgrounds that I know have propane right here that I can just run across the campground and get it. If we're boondocking or out somewhere, I'll set that up higher so that I get an indicator sooner, so that I've got plenty of time to go do what I need to do. And you can even just turn that off if you don't want notifications at all. And then you can set the frequency. Like, I don't want to be told every 5 minutes that I'm below 5%. And so once you're done there, that's it. The app is set up and you're ready to go, and you can add as many of these as you have propane tanks. There's really not any maintenance per se on the system, which is another great thing about it. The only thing that you really have to worry about is the battery. My battery, I've had this thing for quite some time. My first battery lasted me almost a year, about 11 months, which is pretty stinking good. It's those little quarter-size batteries. You pick them up at Walmart, or I have several things that run on them, so I typically just get a bunch of them on Amazon. And changing them out was a joke. I mean, you just pop open the sensor with a little screwdriver, pop one battery out, pop the other one back in, and then put it back on. That is when you do need to make sure that you've got some backup dielectric gel so that you can put it back on. And then you do have to resync it and rename it and everything, is when the battery goes out, there's no backup. And so it loses all that information. But that is not a big deal to do once a year. And that's really it. So you can see from all of this why I love my Mopeka system. Again, to be able to lay in bed on a cold night and check your propane level without having to walk outside, that's pretty ingenious if you ask me. So I cannot recommend this thing enough, and this is not a partnership video. I got nothing from them. I bought this myself off the shelf, have used it for a year, and now just wanted to tell you about it because it has made such a difference for us. So that's it for another video. I certainly hope that this has helped. I hope you go out and get one of these things. We will put an Amazon link in the description box so that you can click right on it and get what you need. So until next time, guys, I hope you go out and have some crazy fun with your crazy family. See you guys.